On a quiet, country road lined with sun-dappled trees, a 10-year-old black boy spotted a stranded car and rushed to help, with nothing in his pockets but compassion. He didn't know the woman inside was the wife of a billionaire, and when her car wouldn't start, he offered to push it uphill by himself. What followed was not just a test of strength, but of humanity. Because just minutes later, an officer showed up, and what he did to the boy would break your heart. But by the next morning, that same boy was standing on the porch of a mansion face to face with destiny. Location: Briarwood Backroads, Georgia. Time: 5:36 p.m. Saturday, a broken-down car, a boy with no shoes, a push that changed everything, and the woman inside, not who he thought she was. The sun cast golden streaks across the tree-lined road. It was the kind of morning that felt slow and calm, the kind where everything moved gently. Birds chirped softly from the branches above, and a light breeze swept dry leaves across the pavement. A vintage white car sat idling on the shoulder, the engine no longer running, but the hazard lights blinking slowly. 10-year-old Marcus walked along the side of the road, a large plastic bag slung over his shoulder. It clinked with the sound of empty soda cans and bottles, collected for recycling. His shoes were worn at the toes and his shirt had a faded cartoon print, but his face carried the kind of energy that only kids have, hopeful and curious. As he reached a bend, he saw a woman standing beside the white car. She was waving to passing vehicles, stepping just off the curb each time. None stopped. The cars sped by, some honking, others veering slightly away as if her presence were a problem to avoid. Marcus paused. He tilted his head and stepped closer. "Ma'am, need help?" he called out, adjusting the strap of his bag. The woman turned, startled. She smiled, almost amused. "Car won't start. My phone died. I guess I picked a bad day to drive this thing." She looked down at Marcus, taking in his size, his worn clothes, the sweat already building on his brow. "You out, collecting cans?" Marcus nodded. "Trying to save up for a new bike. This one's for the tires." She chuckled. "You're doing good, kid." Marcus stepped closer and looked at the car. It was angled slightly down, and the road had just enough slope. "I can help push it," he said with a grin. His voice was steady, his eyes full of determination. "I'm strong." The woman hesitated, then nodded. "All right, let's give it a try." Marcus dropped his bag by the side of the road and moved behind the car. He bent his knees, placed both hands on the trunk, and pushed with everything he had. His arms strained and his shoes slid a little on the asphalt, but the car budged. The woman hopped in and steered. With Marcus's effort and the gentle slope, the car rolled forward slowly, moving off the main road and into a nearby gravel pull-off. When the car stopped, the woman stepped out and looked at Marcus, astonished. "You really did that?" He shrugged, wiping sweat from his brow. "Told you I'm strong." She laughed, walking over to him. "You sure are. Where are you watching from? Would you have stopped to help?" Marcus lived in a small trailer parked at the edge of town, where the gravel road turned to dirt and the nearest street lamp flickered at night. The trailer had 2 rooms and thin walls, and when the wind picked up, it felt like the whole place might lift off the ground. Inside, space was tight, but filled with life. His grandmother, his younger brother Eli, and his little sister Naomi made it home. His mother had been incarcerated since Marcus was 6. His father had vanished long before that. No letters, no calls, just gone. It was his grandmother who picked up the pieces. She worked night shifts at the local diner, came home with aching feet, and still managed to get Eli to school and help Naomi with her spelling. "We might be broke," she always told them, "but we ain't broken." Marcus believed her. Even when they had to share one coat in winter, even when dinner was sometimes just rice and canned beans, he never complained. Instead, he tried to be useful. He became the one everyone in the trailer park could count on. He mowed lawns with a borrowed push mower, swept driveways, and hauled trash bins to the street. Miss Hattie in Lot 6 gave him cookies every Friday. Mr. Leon from the hardware shop let him fix old radios and paid him in tools. Marcus never asked for much, just a little extra work, a small job to help out. He used the money to buy basics, school supplies, second-hand shoes, soap, and, when he could, new spark plugs or old manuals from the thrift store. Because Marcus had a dream. He wanted to be a mechanic. His favorite thing was to sit on the curb near Al's auto garage and watch the men work. Engines fascinated him. He loved how broken things could be taken apart, cleaned, and put back together again. Sometimes he'd pick up pieces of scrap from behind the garage and try to identify them. Air filters, gaskets, old bolts. He once took apart a broken lawnmower in the backyard and got it running again with a wire hanger, tape, and a part from an old scooter. It roared back to life and startled Naomi so badly she dropped her juice. Marcus laughed until he cried. Even the neighbors clapped. At school, Marcus was quiet. He didn't have the newest clothes or the coolest backpack. But his teachers noticed how focused he was, how respectful. When a desk wobbled, he'd fix it. When someone needed help with a science project, he'd be the first to volunteer. He stayed after class to sweep chalk dust off the floors and straighten chairs even when no one asked. He didn't talk much about his family, not because he was ashamed, but because he didn't see the point in pity. What mattered to Marcus wasn't where he came from. It was where he was going. The future, to him, looked like a tidy garage full of engines, grease stains, and satisfied customers. Sometimes, late at night, when his grandmother's soft gospel music played from the kitchen radio, Marcus would lie on the couch and draw sketches of cars. He'd label each part, plan the layout of his imaginary shop, and make lists of tools he'd buy one day. On the wall, beside his bed, taped carefully in place, was a photo he clipped from a magazine. A smiling young man with a wrench in hand standing proudly in front of his custom-built garage. "You're going to fix more than cars," his grandmother once told him, placing a kiss on his forehead. "You're going to fix lives." Marcus didn't know if that was true, but he hoped. And in the quiet moments, that hope was enough to keep going. He didn't ask for more than what they had, but he always worked for more than what he was given. That was Marcus's way. Not loud, not showy, just steady, just honest, just kind. Ever grown up with big dreams and small means? Share your roots. Marcus put his bag of cans down carefully by the roadside, dusted off his hands, and walked to the back of the car. The sun beat down on his shoulders, and sweat had already started to line his forehead. The woman slid into the driver's seat, rolling down the window. "Turn the wheel when I push, okay?" Marcus called out. She nodded, clearly unsure of what would happen next. Marcus bent his knees, placed both palms on the bumper, and pushed. Nothing. He pushed again, this time grunting through clenched teeth. The tires creaked and shifted slightly over the gravel. The woman peeked through her side mirror, expecting to see him give up. Instead, she saw a small boy digging his heels into the road like his life depended on it. The car inched forward. Marcus adjusted his stance, wiped the sweat from his eyes with his shoulder, and pushed again. His shoes slipped for a moment, but he caught himself. His arms trembled. The car moved another few feet. The road wasn't level. In fact, just ahead was a gentle incline that would make things harder. But Marcus didn't stop. He focused on the edge of the small hill like it was the finish line in a race only he could see. He kept going. Behind him, cars continued to pass. One slowed briefly, then sped away. Another driver honked, not in encouragement, but in irritation. Marcus ignored it all. With a groan, he gave the car one final shove, feeling his knees strain. Slowly, slowly, it climbed the slope. After a few minutes of grinding effort, the vehicle reached the top of the small rise. The woman tapped the brakes and popped the gear into neutral. "You can roll it from here," Marcus panted, stepping back, hands on his hips, chest rising and falling fast. His shirt clung to his back, and dust clung to his shins. But there was a smile spreading on his face, tired but proud. The woman stepped out and looked at him in disbelief. "You're something else," she said. "Have you ever helped someone even when you had nothing yourself?" Just as Marcus slung the bag of cans back over his shoulder, a sheriff's cruiser rolled up, kicking up dust and gravel as it came to a sudden stop. The woman turned to see who had arrived, shielding her eyes from the glare. Marcus took a cautious step back, instinctively lowering his gaze. The car door opened, and a tall, broad deputy stepped out. His hand rested near his belt. His sunglasses reflected the sky, giving no hint of his expression. "What's going on here?" he barked, his voice sharp and demanding. The woman raised her hand politely, her tone calm. "Hi, officer. My car broke down. This young man helped me push it." "I wasn't talking to you," he interrupted, his gaze now locked on Marcus. "You harassing her? Trying to scam her, boy?" Marcus stood frozen. He blinked, his throat dry. "No, sir. I was just helping. That's all." The deputy took a step forward. "Let me see your ID." Marcus didn't move. I don't have one. I'm only 10. The woman stepped forward, hands up in frustration. "He's a child." "He just pushed my car uphill. Are you kidding me right now?" The deputy looked at her for the first time, his jaw tightening. "Ma'am, please stay back. I need to handle this." "No," she snapped. "You don't. You need to step back and look at what's really happening. That kid just did something most adults wouldn't. He didn't scam me. He saved me." Marcus clutched the strap of his bag tighter. The deputy looked him over again, slower this time, as if finally registering his age. The silence between them grew heavy. "Ever been judged before anyone even heard your side? Tell us below." The tension in the air hadn't yet cleared when the woman suddenly stepped forward and swung her car door open wide. Her heels clicked hard against the pavement as she stood between Marcus and the deputy. "I said back off," she snapped, her voice echoing louder than the sheriff's siren ever could. "You should be thanking this boy." The deputy flinched slightly, taken off guard by the fierceness in her voice. He opened his mouth to speak but stopped short. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition. "Apologies, ma'am," he muttered, his tone different now. "I didn't know who you were." She narrowed her eyes at him. "You didn't need to know who I was to treat him like a human." The deputy lowered his gaze, stepped back, and muttered something under his breath before turning toward his cruiser. He climbed in quickly and shut the door with more force than necessary. The vehicle backed out of the gravel shoulder and disappeared down the road. The woman turned to Marcus. "You okay, sweetheart?" Marcus looked up slowly. His eyes were wide, still processing everything. He gave a small nod, trying hard not to let the tears slip out. "I just didn't want you stuck," he whispered. She knelt down beside him, brushing dust from his shoulder. You weren't the one who got me stuck. You were the one who got me free. Don't you ever let someone make you question that." Marcus nodded again, more firmly this time. She stood back up, brushing her hands on her jeans, her eyes still scanning the road where the deputy had gone. Some people are so used to judging by what they expect to see, they miss what's really in front of them. Marcus glanced at his bag of cans lying on the side of the road. "I should get going," he said quietly. "Hold up," the woman replied. She walked to her trunk, popped it open, and pulled out a small duffel bag. From inside it, she took a brown paper sack. "It's just a sandwich and an apple, but I want you to take it." Marcus accepted it hesitantly. "Thank you." "No, thank you," she replied. She paused for a moment longer, watching him sling the bag back over his shoulder. "What's your name?" "Marcus." "Well, Marcus," she said, her voice warm but serious, "you did more than help push a car today. You reminded someone how to stand up." Marcus looked at her, unsure what to say. He simply gave a soft smile and nodded. "I hope the rest of your day is easier," she added. "Have you ever seen someone stand up to power, share that powerful moment?" As Marcus turned to leave, the brown paper sack tucked carefully under his arm, the woman paused. She reached into her purse and pulled out her wallet. Her fingers brushed past business cards, a photo, and a folded receipt. She took out a few bills and walked up to him. "Here," she said, holding out the money, "for your kindness." Marcus looked at the bills, then back up at her. He shook his head slowly. "I didn't do it for money." The woman's expression softened. She looked at him for a long moment, then smiled. "You don't know who I am, do you?" Marcus blinked. "No, ma'am." She extended her hand. "I'm Vanessa Ellington. My husband owns Ellington Motors." Marcus froze. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Ellington Motors wasn't just a name. It was the name. The biggest auto manufacturer in the state. Their commercials played during the football games. Their dealerships sat on every major highway. Their logo was stitched into jackets and hats worn by half the town. He'd passed the factory once during a school field trip. The building was massive, clean, and packed with shiny cars. He had stood at the fence, eyes wide, heart pounding, dreaming of what it would be like to work there one day. And now, the woman he had just helped, without asking for anything in return, was married to the man who ran it all. Vanessa watched him, still smiling. "My husband's name might be on the company, but I run just as much of it." Marcus finally found his voice. "You own all the cars? We design them, build them, sell them." He took a step back, trying to process everything. "You're not in trouble," she added quickly. "In fact, I think you might be in luck." Marcus didn't know what to say. He looked down at the brown sack in his hands, then back at the woman standing so calmly in front of him. She took a step closer. "We need more people like you in this world, not because of your strength, but because of your heart. I see a lot of people in my business. Most talk a big game, but few actually show up when it matters." Marcus shifted awkwardly, kicking at a pebble by his foot. Vanessa continued, "You reminded me why we do what we do. Cars are just machines. It's people who give them purpose." He looked up again, eyes meeting hers. "I really wasn't trying to impress anyone." "I know," she said. "That's what impressed me." They stood in silence for a few moments, the breeze tugging gently at the corners of the paper bag. The sky had turned a softer blue, clouds drifting like thoughts not yet spoken. Vanessa pulled a business card from her purse. "Take this," she said, "and when you're ready, whenever that is, come see me. Whether you want a tour, a mentor, or a job, my door will be open." Marcus took the card with both hands, holding it like it might disappear. He read the name twice, just to make sure it was real. "Thank you," he whispered. Vanessa nodded. "You earned it." He tucked the card into his pocket, then clutched the paper bag and turned to walk away. A few steps down the road, he looked back. She was still standing there, watching him. They exchanged a final nod before he disappeared around the bend. Ever helped someone and realized later they were someone big? The next morning, the rising sun painted the sky in soft hues of pink and orange. The gravel in front of Marcus's trailer crunched under the weight of tires. Not one, not two, but a full convoy of sleek black vehicles came to a slow stop outside the little home at the edge of town. Dogs barked in the distance. Curtains shifted in nearby trailers as neighbors peeked out. Marcus was inside, seated at the small table, eating a bowl of cereal beside his younger brother Eli and his sister Naomi. His grandmother hummed softly as she stirred something on the stove. A gentle knock came at the door. Then a pause. Then another. His grandmother wiped her hands and opened it cautiously. Vanessa stood on the steps, dressed in a sharp blazer and flats. Behind her stood a man in a tailored suit with salt and pepper hair. Several well-dressed individuals holding folders and briefcases, and a few security staff. "Good morning," Vanessa said warmly. "Is Marcus home?" His grandmother blinked in confusion. "What's going on?" Marcus peeked out from the hallway, his cereal spoon still in hand. His eyes widened. Vanessa stepped forward slightly. "We didn't want to wait too long. My name's Vanessa Ellington. I met your grandson yesterday." The man beside her added, "And I'm David Ellington. Marcus helped my wife in a way we'll never forget." His grandmother stepped outside fully now, her face a mixture of surprise and caution. "We wanted to speak with you both," Vanessa said. "May we come in?" She hesitated only a second before nodding and opening the door wider. They stepped into the modest trailer, careful not to bump into the low ceiling or narrow walls. David took in the small kitchen, the humble decorations, the family photos hung carefully with tape. Vanessa turned to Marcus. "I told you I'd come back." Marcus nodded, still stunned. Vanessa looked at his grandmother. "Yesterday, your grandson helped me in a moment when most people wouldn't have stopped. He was kind, selfless, and brave. Then he was treated unfairly, and still he carried himself with grace. That kind of character can't be taught." David stepped beside her. "We're here today because we want to honor that. Not just with words, but with action." He pulled a folder from a team member's hands and placed it, gently on the table. "We'd like to offer Marcus a full scholarship, any school, any level, whenever he's ready. In addition, he'll receive mentorship through our junior program at Ellington Motors. Real, hands-on experience with our engineers and designers." His grandmother gasped softly, her hand covering her mouth. Vanessa added, "And one more thing. We've secured a home in a quiet neighborhood nearby. It's furnished, safe, and yours if you choose. A place for Marcus to grow and for your family to breathe." Marcus stood frozen. He looked at the table, then at the tall man with the folder, then at Vanessa, who had tears brimming in her eyes. "Why?" he asked, his voice barely audible. David stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Because who you are matters. Not just what you did. You reminded us what real character looks like." His grandmother sat down slowly, overwhelmed. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't need to say anything right now," Vanessa said gently. "We'll leave this with you. Take your time. We'll check back soon." As they stepped back outside, more neighbors had gathered, whispering among themselves, watching from porches and windows. Marcus followed them out onto the step. David turned around before getting into the car. "We see greatness in him. We hope you do too." The convoy rolled away, slow and steady. Marcus stood in the doorway, the morning light casting a soft glow around him. The folder still sat on the table inside, waiting. Has someone ever rewarded your character instead of just your actions? A few days later, a moving truck pulled up to a freshly painted house on the quieter side of town. The front porch had new railings, the grass was trimmed, and the windows gleamed in the sunlight. A white mailbox stood proudly by the walkway, already labeled with their last name. Marcus stepped out of the car, holding his little brother's hand while his sister skipped ahead. His grandmother followed slowly behind, her hand pressed over her heart. This place was more than a house. It was a fresh start. Inside, every room smelled clean, like fresh paint and new beginnings. The living room had a couch long enough for everyone to sit together. The kitchen had space for them to cook without bumping into one another. The bedrooms had real closets, and the walls were their own. Marcus ran his hand along the smooth stair railing. His siblings were already picking rooms. Laughter bounced off the walls. Boxes sat unopened in the hallway, but none of it felt like work. It felt like home. That weekend, Marcus received a call. It was Vanessa. "Are you ready to see where dreams are built?" The next morning, she picked him up in a sleek black car and drove him to Ellington Motors. As they pulled up to the main entrance, Marcus's eyes widened. The building looked even bigger than he remembered from the school trip. Glass and steel reflected the sky. Workers in uniforms moved between workshops, offices, and test areas. He stepped out and stared. Vanessa placed a visitor badge on his shirt. "Can I touch the engines?" he asked, almost whispering. Vanessa smiled. "You're gonna build them one day." Inside the factory, everything buzzed with precision. Machines whirred. Engineers talked over blueprints. Car parts moved on automated belts. Marcus couldn't stop staring. A lead mechanic offered him gloves and let him help inspect a frame. Another employee handed him a headset so he could hear instructions from the floor team. Every few steps, someone greeted him like he already belonged. Vanessa watched quietly from the side as Marcus leaned over an engine, eyes focused, questions spilling from his mouth. Why does this connect here? What happens if the torque's off? Could I make one of these from scratch? They spent the whole afternoon touring departments. By the time they left, Marcus was carrying a small toolbox with his name engraved on it. He cradled it like treasure. Back at the new house, his grandmother sat on the porch, watching the sunset. She rose when she saw him coming. "How was it, baby?" Marcus nodded, his face brighter than ever. "They let me touch everything, and they said I can come back whenever I want." She pulled him close. Her hands trembled slightly as they wrapped around him. "I told you, baby," she whispered. "Kindness always comes back." He held her tighter, the weight of the last few days finally settling in. Not just the attention or the gifts, but the feeling of being seen, of being believed in. Later that night, they sat on the living room floor eating takeout from paper boxes and watching cartoons on a new television. Eli had already fallen asleep on the rug. Naomi leaned against Marcus's shoulder. "You think we're going to stay here forever?" she asked. He smiled. "Yeah, I think this is it." The stars outside blinked quietly in the sky, and for the first time in a long time, there was no noise, no fear, no running, just family, warmth, and the soft hum of a home finally at peace. Who taught you the value of kindness? Honor them below. Today, Marcus is on a clear path to becoming an engineer at Ellington Motors. What began with a single act of kindness led him to places he never dreamed possible. He now spends weekends at the factory, shadowing engineers, studying blueprints, and asking more questions than anyone can keep up with. He attends a local school known for its advanced science and tech programs, with tutors provided by the company. His grades have never been higher. His confidence, once quiet and tucked away, now shines through every time he walks through the plant doors or explains the difference between two engine models to his younger siblings. The family's new house has become more than just shelter. It's a home base. His grandmother tends to a small garden in the backyard and often invites neighbors over for coffee. Eli has joined the school robotics team, and Naomi proudly tells her classmates that her brother is going to build real cars someday. The incident with the deputy didn't fade into silence. After public attention and an internal review, the sheriff's department issued a formal apology. The officer was publicly reprimanded and removed from street patrol. New training was introduced across the department, aimed at preventing biased assumptions and promoting respect across all interactions. Vanessa didn't stop with a scholarship and a home. She created the Marcus Grant Foundation, an initiative focused on supporting youth in underserved communities who show exceptional character. The foundation offers mentorships, technical training, and emotional support for kids like Marcus, who might otherwise go unnoticed. Her first fundraiser raised over $1 million. Marcus was there for the announcement. Standing at the podium, slightly nervous in his too-big dress shirt, he looked out at the audience of city leaders, reporters, and families. When asked why he helped that day on the road, Marcus didn't deliver a rehearsed speech. He didn't recite quotes or talk about destiny. He just said because her car needed a push. That's it. The room fell silent. Then applause erupted. Since that moment, Marcus has become a quiet symbol for what it means to care without condition, to act without expectation. His photo now hangs in Ellington Motors headquarters, right next to the founders. The caption reads, "Character is the engine that drives change." Marcus still walks the same way he always has. Shoulders straight, eyes curious, hands sometimes smudged with grease from an afternoon in the shop. He still helps carry groceries for neighbors and still picks up litter when he sees it. But now, when he does, people recognize him. Some wave, some stop and talk, some just smile, reminded that one kid with a bag of cans and a kind heart can change more than just a stranger's day. He changed lives. If you believe kindness should be celebrated, share this story. The world needs more kids like Marcus.